Hello, Mark Sutt with HurricaneTrack.com here with your Hurricane and Hurricane HD video blog for Saturday, July 21st, 2012. Looking at the next 10 days, July 21st through the 31st, the points of origin of tropical cyclones in the eastern Pacific, a pretty good cluster to the south and west of Mexico, with a second clustering out more towards the central Pacific. Notice in the Caribbean Sea only 1, 2, 3 development areas over the last 100 years or so. The Caribbean mostly inactive during this time of the year. It becomes more of a focal point later in August through September, with this region becoming much more active. The Gulf of Mexico during this 10-day time period has seen its share of development over the last 100 years. Then we start looking out towards Africa, anywhere from the Cape Verde region all the way over to just east of the Lesser Antilles, and then a nice cluster off the southeast coast, some of that from fronts that have moved off the United States coastline. They stall out, and then you get some development down here. Some of these are from tropical waves and probably even upper level areas of low pressure that eventually work their way to the surface. Point being, this next 10 days, things do start to get a little bit more active, and as we look at that in relation to a graph, remember I talked about July 10th here being quite the downturn in activity overall. Pressures are usually the highest out in the Atlantic during this time period, and you can see that little depression there, that bowl shape to the statistics, and that is because this time of year, at least the first part of July, now we're entering the last 10 days, so the first 2/3 of July, typically very, very quiet in the tropics. A few years stand out. 2005 as an example, very busy almost the entire hurricane season. Now that we're getting closer to August, we will ramp up the chances of development significantly until we reach that peak around September the 10th, and most likely from about August the 15th through the end of October will be our busiest period of the hurricane season, and we'll have to wait and see if that comes to pass. In a normal year, that is what we would expect. Will this year be normal? We'll have to wait and see. I wish I knew the future. I would definitely tell you. Looking out at Africa, some of these tropical waves do hold the key to the future, as they will come out over the Atlantic, moving westward and moisten the atmosphere. Each of these little bundles of energy, a ripple of low pressure along the trade winds, and they continue to sort of pave the way for things later on in the season, making the atmosphere more unstable, one pulse of energy at a time. Looking at the current satellite picture for the Atlantic Basin, you can really see this surge of African dust. The Saharan air layer has come out here, lots and lots of dry, stable air, even reaching farther north, but this will start to mix out slowly, very slowly, but it will start to mix out, and eventually, as we get closer to the first part of August, this region right through here is where we will start to focus our attention to see if we get any of those tropical waves to develop. Keep in mind that if they don't develop out in this area, let's say that this is not favorable at all, and they make it over to this region before they start to develop, or even up here north of the Greater Antilles Islands, they are much closer to land masses, either these islands here, or certainly the southeast and then into the Gulf. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. The tropical Atlantic, not too unfavorable overall. We'll look at sea surface temperatures and everything related to that on Monday, but it's just interesting. We have about a month to go, maybe only 3 to 4 weeks before things start to get quite active. The Pacific finally has calmed down after that trio of storms with Daniel and then Amelia and then most recently Fabio. No areas of concern anywhere out here in the eastern Pacific, only limited convection close to and near the equator down there, so nothing to worry about in the eastern Pacific as well. So there you have it, a look at the tropics here for this Saturday, July 21st. I'm not going to be in the office tomorrow, Sunday. Going to take a vacation day, as it were, but I'll be back Monday. We're going to take a good look at the sea surface temperature anomalies, the differences between the normal and where they are, the averages and where they really are, those departures from normal. And I want to show you a comparative analysis to 2008 on Monday's update as well. I think that's very interesting how similar the 2 years are ocean profile temperature-wise. And then, of course, we'll look at other things going on in the long-range models and what the El Nino might be up to. Not El Nino yet. I don't want to get ahead of myself. That'll all be on Monday. Have yourselves a great rest of your weekend. Again, I'm Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. Glad to do these videos for Hurricane and Hurricane HD, and I'll talk to you again on Monday.